The Tesla Model S Plaid glided silently through the circular driveway of the Beverly Hills mansion when Sean Matthews decided to cancel his final investor meeting and surprise his family. 3 weeks in New York closing the biggest merger in Matthews Financial Technologies history, $12 billion, deserved celebration at home. At 39, the founder and CEO had built a fintech empire from nothing. But as he cut the engine, his mind wasn't on stock prices or board presentations. It was on the 65-year-old woman who had saved him when he was just a terrified 10-year-old. Rebecca Johnson wasn't his biological mother, but she had been the only mother who truly mattered. When the Detroit foster system placed him in her modest 2-bedroom home, she was a social worker living paycheck to paycheck. Even so, she worked overnight shifts at nursing homes and weekends at a grocery store to pay for his college applications and business courses. Sean grabbed the white bakery box from the passenger seat and headed toward the side entrance leading to the great room. He planned to surprise Rebecca with her favorite, peach cobbler from that little place in Culver City she loved, still warm, just the way she used to make it for him after rough days at his new high school when kids would whisper about the foster kid. Angry voices stopped him cold behind the floor-to-ceiling glass panels. "I've told you 100 times not to answer the door when my friends are here." His wife Wendy's voice sliced through the expensive air like a blade. "What do you think it looks like having you greet my guests?" "Your help, Rebecca." "Act like it." "I'm sorry, Mrs. Wendy. I just thought." "I don't care what you thought." Wendy's words came fast and venomous. "You're not family here. You're the woman my husband has this bizarre obligation to. Just because he has some savior complex about his past." Sean felt ice flood his veins. Help. Rebecca had moved into the East Wing suite 2 years ago, after he insisted she deserved comfort after decades of sacrifice. Wendy had always seemed so warm toward Rebecca, at least whenever he was around. "I'm not help," Rebecca said quietly, with a dignity that broke something inside Sean. "Sean asked me to live here as family." Wendy's cruel laugh echoed off the Italian marble. "Family? A social worker from Detroit who got paid by the state to warehouse him when nobody else wanted a damaged kid? Please. You did a job. That's all." The bakery box slipped from Sean's numb fingers, landing silently on the Persian rug. For 29 years, Rebecca had never once mentioned any state payments. To him, she had simply been the woman who chose to love him when everyone else had given up. "And another thing," Wendy continued, her voice dropping to something darker. "I'm tired of seeing your things in the main hallway. Starting tomorrow, you'll use the service entrance and the downstairs powder room. The one by the laundry. But that bathroom doesn't have. I don't care what it doesn't have. You're not a guest here, Rebecca. You're tolerated. Because of him. Try to remember that." Sean carefully moved closer to the doorway and saw her, Rebecca Johnson, the woman who had worked 16-hour days to afford his SAT prep and business school applications, standing beside the kitchen island with her shoulders curved inward like something wounded. Her hands, the same hands that had held him through nightmares about being unwanted, trembled around a coffee mug. "Maybe Wendy's right," Rebecca whispered, more to herself than anyone. "Maybe I should have stayed in Detroit. This isn't my world." "Finally," Wendy snapped. A moment of clarity. "You never belonged in Beverly Hills, Rebecca. You can play dress up all you want, but you'll always be a social worker from the hood pretending to be something you're not." That's when Sean noticed the detail that shattered him completely. Rebecca was wearing a plain gray housekeeping uniform. Wendy had literally turned the woman who raised a billionaire into household staff. As he quietly stepped back toward the garden entrance, a memory hit him with devastating force. Rebecca at 35, exhausted after a double shift, sitting at their tiny kitchen table filling out his college applications, saying, "Baby, someday you're going to be somebody big. You're going to help people like us. But don't you ever, ever, let anyone make you forget where you came from or who loved you when you had nothing." Now, at 65, the woman who had sacrificed her best years so he could dream big was being humiliated in the house her sacrifices had made possible. Sean pulled out his phone and opened the home security app. If Wendy was doing this now, in broad daylight, what had been happening during his 3-week trips to New York? His monthly visits to the London office? The 2-week tour of the Asian markets? His finger hovered over the camera archives. Then he started scrolling backward. "Hello everyone, before we continue today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never get to miss our channel new stories. It is quick, free, and best way to support us in bringing more interesting stories. Your support means the world to us and motivate us to create more good stories. Tell us where you are watching from your country, city, so we can know how far our stories goes. Thank you. Let's begin the story. The Tesla's dashboard clock read 2:47 p.m. when Sean pulled into the circular driveway, 3 hours earlier than anyone expected him. The $12 billion merger had closed that morning in a Manhattan boardroom, but all Sean wanted was to see Rebecca's face light up when he walked through the door. He'd left the celebration dinner early, caught the first flight west, and driven straight from LAX with one stop, that bakery in Culver City where they still made peach cobbler the old-fashioned way, with extra cinnamon, exactly how Rebecca loved it. 29 years ago, she'd taken in a shattered 10-year-old boy who'd just lost everything in a car accident that made the Detroit Evening News. Sean Matthews, sole survivor, no living relatives, headed into the foster system like thousands of other invisible kids. But Rebecca Johnson had seen something in him during her intake interview. Maybe the way he clutched his father's watch, maybe the quiet terror in his eyes, and decided right there that he deserved better than group homes and temporary placements. She worked herself to exhaustion for him. Social worker during the day, overnight shifts at nursing homes, weekends scanning groceries while other women her age relaxed. When Sean got accepted into that community college business program at 16, but couldn't afford the $600 enrollment fee, Rebecca sold her late mother's wedding ring, the only valuable thing she owned, and told him it was financial aid. He didn't learn the truth until years later, found the pawn receipt in an old box of tax returns. Now he carried a white bakery box toward the side entrance, imagining her surprise, planning to tell her the deal was done and they'd won. But voices stopped him cold behind the glass panels. Sharp. Cutting. Wendy's voice slicing through the afternoon air like something surgical. Your help, Rebecca. Act like it. Sean's hand froze on the door handle. Sean stayed frozen behind the column, the bakery box growing heavy in his hands. Through the gap in the doorway, he watched Wendy circle Rebecca like a predator who'd already won. I've explained this before, Wendy continued, her tone ice smooth. When my Platinum Circle friends come for lunch, you use the service entrance. The one by the garage. Not the front door like you're some kind of guest. I understand, Rebecca whispered. I'm sorry. And honestly, Rebecca, Wendy's voice dropped lower, more intimate in its cruelty. A black social worker from Detroit, who took in a charity case, doesn't belong in my living room. You know that, right? This world isn't for people like you. It never was. That's when Sean saw it. Rebecca was wearing a gray housekeeper's uniform with MCS Cleaning Services embroidered on the pocket. He'd never authorized staff uniforms. Never hired a cleaning service with those initials. His chest tightened as understanding crashed over him. Starting tomorrow, you'll use the bathroom in the pool house, Wendy said, examining her manicured nails. The powder room is for family and guests. But the pool house bathroom doesn't have heat. Then I suggest you make it quick. Wendy's smile was sharp. Consider it motivation to remember your place. Rebecca's hands trembled around her coffee mug. Sean recognized those hands, the same ones that had held him through endless nights of nightmares after the accident, when he'd wake up screaming for parents who would never answer. The hands that had braided countless foster daughters' hair before him, that had signed his adoption papers, that had worked themselves raw so he could have textbooks and hope. He stepped back silently, the peach cobbler forgotten on a side table. His phone felt heavy as he pulled it from his pocket, opened the home security app with shaking fingers. The archive went back 6 months. If Wendy was doing this now, in the middle of a Tuesday afternoon, what had been happening during his 3-week trip to New York? His monthly London visits? The Singapore conference? His thumb hovered over September. Then he pressed play. Sean's office door clicked shut behind him. His hands shook as he cast the security footage from his phone to the large monitor on the wall. The first clip loaded, September 14th, 2024. Rebecca's 65th birthday. He watched Wendy intercept the delivery driver at the door, signing for the custom cake Sean had ordered from Rebecca's favorite bakery before his London trip. Watched her carry it through the kitchen where Rebecca stood preparing dinner. Watched her dump the entire cake, champagne vanilla with buttercream roses, into the garbage disposal. Sean wastes too much money on you, Wendy said to Rebecca's shocked face. You should be grateful for room and board. Birthdays are for family. Sean's jaw clenched. He scrolled back further. November 28th, Thanksgiving. The footage showed Rebecca in the kitchen since dawn, preparing turkey, dressing, sweet potato casserole, the full spread. At 6 p.m., Wendy's parents and her sister's family arrived. 20 minutes later, Wendy appeared in the kitchen doorway. "Rebecca, you'll eat after we're finished. Take your plate to the pool house." "But Sean always." "Sean isn't here. House rules." Wendy's smile was poison sweet. "Unless you'd prefer I tell him you're becoming difficult?" Rebecca had carried her plate outside in the November cold. Sean scrolled faster, nausea rising. October showed Wendy entertaining her Platinum Circle friends in the living room, voices carrying to the kitchen where Rebecca prepared appetizers. "She still talks like she's in Detroit," Wendy laughed. "Yesterday she said, 'Y'all' to my interior designer. I nearly died." Her friend's laughter was sharp and cruel. Sean switched to Wendy's laptop backup. He'd configured all devices to sync to the home server years ago for convenience. Found her private Instagram. The Platinum Circle group had 43 members. He scrolled through messages, his blood turning to ice. These old folks from that generation need to understand their place. Mine still thinks she's entitled to holiday dinners. Then Wendy's post from last week. "Working on the Rebecca problem. Have Golden Horizons on standby. Just need medical documentation." Sean's vision blurred red. The next morning, Sean sat across from Wendy at breakfast as though nothing had changed. She smiled at him over her green juice, the picture of concerned devotion. "Your mother's been having more episodes, honey." Wendy's voice dripped sympathy. "Yesterday she forgot what day it was. And last week she left the stove on twice. I'm worried about her safety." Sean forced himself to nod, to look concerned rather than murderous. "We should keep an eye on that. I've been researching memory care facilities. Just in case." Wendy touched his hand. "Golden Horizons has excellent reviews." 2 hours later, Sean sat in a downtown LA office tower, far from Beverly Hills and its social networks. Marcus Chen's office was deliberately modest. Former FBI agents who specialized in high net worth investigations didn't advertise. Chen watched the security footage in silence, his expression darkening. When Wendy's Instagram messages appeared on screen, he leaned back and exhaled slowly. "This is textbook elder abuse with intent to fraudulently institutionalize." Chen's voice was clinical. "The systematic isolation, the manufactured incompetence narrative, the facility already selected. She's building a false paper trail. How do we stop it? We need everything on her devices. Phone, laptop, tablets. Thursday's her spa day, correct?" Sean nodded. "Wendy's standing appointment, 4 hours at Burke Williams, every Thursday at noon. I'll handle extraction then." Chin made notes. "But Sean, there's something else." He slid a folder across the desk. "Your attorney flagged unusual activity. Wendy's been consulting with Whitmore and Associates. They specialize in conservatorship." The room tilted. "Conservatorship? She's building a case that Rebecca's mentally incompetent. With medical power of attorney, she could have Rebecca committed against her will. Permanently." Chin paused. "And Sean, according to these documents, she already has that power of attorney. Signed by Rebecca last month." "That's impossible. Rebecca would never." "Exactly. Which means it's forged." That night, Sean found Rebecca in the garden at midnight, sitting on a stone bench in her robe. When she saw him, tears spilled down her cheeks. "I'm so sorry, baby. I'm causing problems in your marriage. Maybe I should." "Stop." Sean knelt before her, taking her trembling hands. "You didn't raise me to let anyone hurt my family. And you are my family. The only family that ever mattered." Chen's follow-up meeting came 48 hours later. He spread documents across Sean's office desk like evidence at a crime scene. "It's not just Wendy. The Platinum Circle is running a coordinated operation." Chen tapped a printout of Instagram messages. 6 families executing identical schemes. Elderly parents systematically isolated, humiliated, documented as incompetent, then institutionalized in facilities that cost $15,000 monthly but provide minimal care. Sean's stomach twisted. They're doing this to their own families? Parents who don't fit the aesthetic, who remind their children of humble beginnings. Chin pulled up a spreadsheet. "But here's what sealed it for me, Wendy's timeline. Rebecca's scheduled for Golden Horizons admission next Monday at 9 a.m. Paperwork's already filed. Based on what medical evaluation? Dr. Richard Hastings, geriatric specialist in Santa Monica." Chin slid over a report detailing severe cognitive decline, memory loss, dangerous behavior. "Except Dr. Hastings has never met Rebecca. I checked. These evaluations are completely fabricated. Jesus Christ. I arranged a legitimate assessment yesterday. Dr. Sarah Kim, UCLA Medical. Rebecca passed every cognitive test perfectly. Sharp as anyone half her age. Chen's expression hardened. And Sean, there's more. The $10,000 monthly stipend you established for Rebecca's personal expenses? Wendy's been redirecting it to her own accounts for 14 months. That's $140,000 in elder financial abuse. Sean's hands curled into fists. The Platinum Circle has a brunch scheduled Sunday at the Beverly Hills Hotel. They're calling it Problem Solving Sunday. Chen showed him the group message thread. Champagne emojis. Celebration. They think they've won. When do we move? I've contacted Melissa Rodriguez at the LA Times. She's been investigating elder abuse in affluent communities for 2 years. And TMZ will run it simultaneously for maximum reach. Chen met Sean's eyes. We exposed them Sunday morning. During their celebration. That evening, Rebecca found Sean on the terrace. She stood quiet for a moment before asking softly, "Do you still love her?" Sean's silence stretched between them like a chasm. Finally, he shook his head. "I don't think I ever knew who she really was." Friday evening, when he found Sean in his office, her expression radiating false concern mixed with something darker, triumph barely concealed. "Darling, I wanted you to know I've finalized everything with Golden Horizons. They're sending transport Monday morning at 9. She touched his shoulder. "Rebecca will finally get the professional care she needs. Round-the-clock supervision, medical staff, activities with people her own age." Sean kept his voice neutral. "That's quite sudden. Dr. Hastings felt we shouldn't delay. Her decline is accelerating." Wendy's smile was practiced perfection. "I've handled everything. You can focus on work." That night, Chen sent surveillance photos. Wendy at lunch with 3 Platinum Circle members, phone screen visible, showing them pictures of Golden Horizons' sterile hallways and shared rooms. The caption read, "Problem solved Monday." Saturday afternoon, Wendy hosted the Platinum Circle brunch on their terrace. Sean watched from his office window as 12 women in designer sundresses clinked champagne flutes, their laughter carrying on the breeze. One held up her phone for a group photo, caption already typed, "To new beginnings and elegant solutions." Rebecca moved through the background in the cream silk blouse and tailored slacks Sean had bought her that morning, after he'd collected every gray uniform from her closet and thrown them in the fireplace. She carried a tray of pastries, head high despite everything, and Sean felt rage and pride war inside his chest. Sunday evening, Sean arranged dinner for 3. The dining room table set with Rebecca's favorite dishes, recipes from her Detroit kitchen that the private chef had learned specially. Wendy performed beautifully. Solicitous questions about Rebecca's comfort. Gentle touches on her arm. "We want you to be happy, Rebecca. That's all we've ever wanted." Sean's phone sat on the table, recording everything. At 8:47 p.m., Wendy's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, smiled slightly, then excused herself. Sean had already seen the message forwarded from Chen's monitoring system. "Media embargo lifts Monday 6 a.m. Rodriguez/TMZ coordinated. You're clear for deployment." Wendy thought it was her confirmation. She had no idea what was actually about to deploy. Monday morning, 6 a.m. Sean's phone lit up with alerts cascading like dominoes. The LA Times homepage loaded with a headline in bold black text. "Beverly Hills elite accused of systematic elder abuse conspiracy." Below it, photographs of the Platinum Circle. Wendy's face front and center. TMZ's notification followed seconds later. Exclusive. Billionaire's wife caught abusing his adoptive mother, video inside. The security footage had gone viral in minutes. Wendy appeared in the kitchen at 6:47, still in her silk robe, phone already pressed to her ear. Her face drained of color when she saw Sean sitting at the breakfast table, laptop open, projector aimed at the dining room's white wall. "What is?" Sean pressed play. Her Instagram messages filled the wall in letters 3 feet high. "Working on the Rebecca problem. These old folks from that generation need to understand their place." Wendy's phone clattered to the marble floor. "You thought Rebecca was the problem." Sean's voice was ice and fire combined. "But it was always you." He slid divorce papers across the table. Behind them, the prenuptial agreement she'd signed 7 years ago, the one that had seemed so romantic then, the one her lawyer had advised against. "Section 12, subsection C," Sean said quietly. "In the event of proven abuse, fraud, or criminal activity, the prenuptial protections are voided. You leave with exactly what you brought to this marriage, nothing but your reputation." He paused. "And that's already destroyed." Rebecca entered then, wearing the cream silk blouse, standing straighter than Sean had seen her stand in months. She looked at Wendy with something beyond anger, a quiet, devastating dignity. "I forgive you, Wendy," Rebecca said softly. "But I'll never forget what you did, and neither will anyone else." Wendy's phone, still on the floor, buzzed relentlessly. Text after text. Sean could see the names, former friends distancing themselves, the country club, her attorney. All abandoning ship. The doorbell rang. Federal agents, Chin had warned him. Investigation into conspiracy to commit fraud and systematic elder abuse. Sean stood. "You underestimated a son's love for his mother. That was your fatal mistake. You confused obligation with devotion. You'll spend the rest of your life learning the difference." Security escorted Wendy from the property at 8:23 a.m. The Golden Horizons transport then never arrived. 6 months later, Rebecca sat at the head of the conference table in what used to be Sean's home office, now headquarters for the Foster Youth Mentorship Foundation. 15 former foster kids listened as she taught her weekly workshop, how this Detroit social worker raised a billionaire. "Success isn't the money," Rebecca told them, glasses perched on her nose. "It's staying human when the world gives you every reason not to." Wendy lived in a Sherman Oaks studio apartment now, working retail at a boutique that didn't know her story. 3 Platinum Circle members faced criminal charges. The California legislature had passed Rebecca's law in December, protections against coerced institutionalization of elderly family members. That evening, Sean and Rebecca stood in the kitchen baking peach cobbler from scratch, flour dusting the counters the way it used to in that tiny Detroit house 29 years ago. "You know what I'm most proud of?" Rebecca said, rolling out dough. "Not that you got rich, baby. That you stayed good." Sean kissed her forehead. "I learned from the best, Mom. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when everyone else walks away. And when someone threatens that bond, there's no wealth more powerful than a child's love for the parent who chose them." I hope you enjoyed the story. I have a favor to ask. Some of you just watch. I will really appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button. It is free, and this will encourage us to do more.